So today we have with us Levi Roots of Reggae Reggae Sauce fame. Welcome, Levi. It's lovely to have you. How are you today?
I'm good, Don. I'm really good, you know. I'm feeling blessed as perhaps all Jamaicans or Caribbean people would say on a beautiful morning like this. Just in my month of June, in the month of Levi.
Oh,
So
really?
absolutely. So if you're born in June, this is your time, you're a Levi. And that's where I put the name from. So I'm joyous at the time whenever time this month, my month comes around, the month of purple. And that's why, as you know, I wear a lot of purple suits.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Well, I believe myself and Levi go way, way back before his fame, his Dragon's Den fame. We met at an exhibition, a food exhibition at Excel. And in fact, even before that, someone who was working with you, I think she was promoting your products at the time. She rang me and said, I've got this man called Levi Roots and he's doing a sauce called Reggae Reggae Sauce. And I was running a Caribbean food website at the time. So she rang to let me know about you and your product. And sure enough, I met you, I think within a month or so later on, you were at this food exhibition. Making a splash at the exhibition because as it is with exhibitions in Excel, there's not many people that look like us. So you stood out. And I believe that's where Dragon's Den Scout spotted you and invited you onto the show. Is that right?
Yeah, that was my moment when, you know, as you say, everything's open and put a spotlight on you. But that doesn't happen until you've been through the struggles and strive of trying to get to that point when you get to the point where you feel like you could do with that blessing or you could accept it. And that was my moment, but it was after many years of struggling, of doing, you know, the hard work of getting there, the journey. And
yeah. And you have a very good point, because sometimes people think things happen overnight and they don't. They don't see the years of struggle beforehand. So let's step back a bit then. Tell me about your early life as a child, your education. What kind of aspirations did you have as a child?
Well, as a child, you know, the only aspirations you have in my childhood, which is what I'm referring to, back then is just trying to get some food on the plate, and hopefully when you come home from play, you know, your grandma has something for you to eat. It was in the 60s growing up back in Clarendon in Jamaica. Being the youngest in the family there, my job was only to play. Nobody really cared about you when you're the youngest. Everybody else was preparing to come to the UK because my mom and dad had come first, like many families, and the plan is to send for the kids one at a time. And I would look around every year or so, and I would see one of my brothers or sisters missing, and quickly get to realize through my grandma tried to explain to me what's happening. But you don't take it in at that age. You're in beautiful Clarendon, where everything is green and every lake has jumping fish there.
Wow.
You know, every tree has a fruit in there. You know, it's just absolutely amazing at Clarendon, that parish of Clarendon. And, you know, that's where I grew up. So at the age of 10, I wasn't even realizing that my time would come soon when I had to leave my granny, who was just really teaching me the things that she knew. She wasn't particularly educated, my granny, but one thing she could do, she could cook. And the whole area knew that, because when she cooked, I mean, when I say cook, she could make something out of anything, because we were poor. We couldn't afford to go and buy meat and things to make, you know, different kind of flavors. But what she was great at is using the simple things that we grew in our garden, and my grandfather had a little farm next door. The simple things that we could grow, she could make these fantastic, what we call gravy back then, or she would call it relish in her days as a child, growing up then. But she could make it, and when we put it on the simple things like the yams and the dumplings, which we could do, and the potato that we grew anyway. But when she pour on this thing that she could make out of the scallion and the thyme and everything that we grew lovely. She poured, and you feel like you were eating like a 3-course meal with the steak and everything that your friends next door, your richer friends next door were having. But you know, I didn't care because for me it was just the flavors that she would create, and that's all I remember her doing is creating this fantastic flavors kind of relish and gravy thing that she did. And eventually, when it was my time to come to the UK to join my other brothers and sisters that was here, I came when I was 11, straight into secondary school, and couldn't read or write, struggled really, really bad. As I said, being uprooted from that lifestyle as a young child still. You didn't ask to come. Nobody even really did sit you down and said, you know, young Keith, would you like to, you know, to stay with your granny? Your beloved granny was giving you all the luck in the world. Or would you like to be shipped up on a plane that you've never even seen back then, you know, to go to meet your mom and dad who you didn't even really know because they had left about 4 or 5 years before. So for me, even my mom and dad was a bit strange to me. And to reconnect with my brothers and sisters who I was too young to even have a connection with them anyway when they were there in Clarendon with me. So it was, if you had asked me, I would have said I would have stayed with my grandma, you know, she was mom and dad and everything. But you don't have a choice as a child. So coming over here for me was the worst thing ever. To go into
really?
Well, to go into school when you can't even spell your first name, secondary school, you know, and everybody else back then, you know, had gone through, you know, primary school and all kind of different things. So they were up with the curriculum. And I landed in school at a place where I was nearly 12 years old and I couldn't even really spell my full name. That's how bad it was. But, you know, something in me kind of felt like it was right. I wasn't me, that I could be better. I always felt that. I mean, I never expressed that to anyone. I say it now because I talk about those days, my youth days a lot. And I remember always feeling that I feel like I could do better. Even when I left school and I was living in Brixton and growing up in the times of the riots. And back then, even if you feel like you could work from now till a morning, you had no chance to get a job.
Really?
You know? In the 70s, you couldn't put down Brixton as your address if you are searching for a job, especially in Southwest, in Brixton, in the heart of it, with the front line and all these things, which is where I grew up. It was desperate times. So you're just hoping that, you know, that angel come and touch you at that time, like when I mentioned that my time came when you was there, you know, with me in the Excel Center, when the blessing came. But you had no chance of growing up back then. It all depended on luck. Because the environment that you lived in doesn't give you any chances. And you don't have no Peter Joneses or nobody that come around in Brixton to butter you who could perhaps even, you know, have the education to do some great things. No one saw you. So for me, I had to get out of the community. I really did, because when I started to do my sources, I realized that I couldn't sell it in local Brixton. And because the reason is everybody there knew their own sources anyway. They were Caribbean. Brixton is their Caribbean hub. And they completely rejected the fact that for me, who they knew grew up amongst them, was now trying to sell them, you know, something which is authentic, and I'm not just coming from Jamaica. Because as you know, Jamaican people say, if you don't just come fresh off the plane, you're Englishman. So for me to be selling them songs and Levi, no, go back to singing and do your music and everything, but please don't try to sell with a sauce. So that was the kind of rejection which I had back then. And at one time I had to really admit it to myself, that not that it was a rejection in any way, because I says people respected me highly. Well, some people anyway, because I come through the great sound system called Sir Coxon, and that was my life before that, you know, as a sound system man. So I had the respect, and as a musician and as a singer from a lot of people within my community. But they were saying to me, go back to singing, don't sell we the sauce, because we can make sauce, you know, that was it. Right. So I just thought to myself that I have to find myself a market. I really had to do that. So I chose to go in. I got so peed off at one stage. I went to a festival in Carmarthenshire, a music festival, and I'd made some of the sauces based on my grandmother's, how she did it and her inspiration and everything. And I took it there, and the people in those kind of areas didn't really have Caribbean sauces and everything, or even have a Rasta man who's telling them about his grandma, you know, and a sing song and all these things like that. And I found that this was my market, you know, taking it to somewhere else that didn't really look at the scrutiny of what the product is and whether you change it, whether it's rice and peas, or it's peas and rice, or it's curry goat, or it's goat curry, and all these things. That wasn't really the matter for them. The main thing is that it was great flavors for them, and it had a background for them, because I was taking out the guitar and that sing song and all these things. So I found my market, what I call in the Shires. And for about 2 years, I never sold Reggae Reggae Sauce really locally. It was in some shops that was accepting it, particularly one chicken shop in Brixton, which I knew helped me really good, and the record shops, because record shops was now selling it. Because it was called Reggae Reggae Sauce, and I was trying to say that it merges with music. Okay. So in some ways, I got a few record shops to be able to sell the sauce, and it was great. But it was my time in what I call in the Shires. And it was while I was in one of these type events, which you were there at the Excel Center, where these people who are at these kind of exhibitions are not your local people. They are mainstream people, which is what I got used to by doing that 2 years in the Shires, wherever there's Shire at the end of the word. You know,
you'd be there.
I'll be there in these nice country villages, and
makes sense.
be the only black person in there with a sauce, and I take out the guitar and I sing and all these things.
Oh.
But it was there, the producer from Dragon saw me doing my same thing. I said, you know what it was like, because you saw me as well. So I'm there telling my story and singing songs and all these things. And she recognized that, you know, this is perhaps something for the program, and she gave me a business card. I'd never seen the show. I never knew Dragons then. Nobody had ever mentioned it to me for some reason. I never really saw it. I don't really watch TV back then in that kind of way. So I did not believe in the whole thing about, you know, this Dragons Den thing, until my kids were trying to say to me, you know, that don't do it, because it's not that type of thing. You can't go on there and be yourself and all these things.
Really? Your kids tried to tell you not to do it?
Well, because they knew I wanted to sing the song, you know, and they were saying to me that says nobody had ever sang before. And it was kind of a protective thing in some ways. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to go and make a fool of yourself. Who wants to be the first black Rasta man to go on TV, to go and sing a reggae song on a show about business and enterprise? And your daddy is your daddy to go and do that. The biggest laughing stock ever, or the chances, because the idea was ridiculous for that people. But I wanted to be. I just felt to myself that it was a big opportunity to go on TV, which I'd never done big TV before. And here was an opportunity for me to really show this new me, this promise that was coming from way back from a grandma's, you know, having to leave her and come to UK and struggle through education and Brixton and everything, and then having to find myself in the Shires. It's like that journey was really coming to reality. Not that I recognized it then, but this is the stages that was happening. I now found my market, and then finally I'm usurped into that moment where you're on the big stage now. And what do you do? You know, do you fright or flight? You know what I'm saying? And I wanted to fly with it. So for me, I accepted the business card. I rejected what everybody was saying to me, that don't be the fool to go on the show and be the first to be the biggest loser ever. You know, you don't have a business plan. All you do is have a song. But I was saying, but that's me. You know, my business plan is me. You know, as long as I can tell the person who I'm expressing myself to about me, and so they can read into me. And as long as I'm comfortable to do that, and the only way that I can be that is just have my music with me. I don't need anything else to be able to be comfortable to sell Levi Roots. And as long as the BBC was willing to accept that I could play my music on there, then I didn't need any paraphernalia or anything like that. All I needed was just that. And I refused to watch the show. In the 2 weeks that I had, yes, in the 2 weeks that I had before I got on there, you know, everybody was trying to say, yes, Levi, look at it, you know, this is how horrible Peter Jones is, and how terrible and how embarrassing you're going to be, and all this kind of stuff. And I just thought that, no, I don't want to be beaten before I got there. You know, if I had now started to full up myself of the losing aspect of Dragons Den,
Yeah.
Perhaps I would have thought to myself that, well, no, actually leave the guitar behind and go like how everybody else would have gone.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, with your product, and you stand there and you talk and you sweat and you all kind of something go on. But I just felt to myself I wanted to be the best of me. And if I am, then I'm gonna have to reject the advice from a lot of people and go with my heart and my gut feeling of what's right for me, not right for anybody else. So I said, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna take that chance. You know, I always talk about take the current when it serves or lose your ventures, you know, which is a Shakespeare thing. And he's saying you have to take your chance when it comes. And I realized that this was my moment. So I decided to, yeah, I'm going to do it. And even, you know, people will see on the show, that first part where I came up and I was 110% me, the best I can be, with my grandma's stories, harm with the sauce and the music, my shield and my buckler, as them say in biblical terms. You harm yourself with the things that protect you. I had the three things. I had my grandma's inspiration because I was thinking about her and my mom as well. And I was thinking, and I had my guitar. And I felt like I was confident. So that first part when I got up and started to sing the song and everything nice, I just see the dragons, them a smile and shocked to see, because it is really, they don't see you before. They don't know what you're gonna do before you actually go up there. So for them, it was just a shock, you know, as the audience that's watching to see somebody coming up doing something different. But I was in my element. You know, I would get on the stage all my life, you know, through sound systems and everything.
Yeah.
I knew that when
Absolutely.
someone introduced me and I come on with my guitar, then it's time to perform.
Yeah. It's like another concert.
Absolutely, and that's what I went through. But as all things, you know, even in real life, is the moments after when you come out of the reality of you. That's when you always struggle. And it was after the song now, it's like after the concert, when you mash up and you go backstage and you're feeling, oh Lord of mercy. Well, for me, it was after the song was finished. And now they started to grill into you and trying to, which is what normally happens anyway on the show. And that you see the sweat start come out, you start sweat profusely. And for me it was moment like, you know, please God, my grandma, everybody, you don't draw me out of this dream here, this nightmare of what happened to me. Right?
Oh my God.
So that was the feeling. But you know what? The first part had already done the job. You know, for those who watching, if you watch it, you will see dragons that tap them finger on desk and Peter Jones with a big old smile on his face and all these things when they saw what was happening that first part. So that was already sold. So looking back at it now, mistakes are a part of a dream. It's never all just sweet stuff. You know, there is some moments that you don't realize that before you go into your dream, you know, which is, I think that's the protection to make people all know that we are all equal. So you don't just think you can just jump one stage and get to the treasure. You know, there is that moment. And for me, that was that moment for me there. But you have to sell yourself first because they didn't invest in the sauce. And in the moment that the mistakes that I made and all, that wasn't the investment. The investment was in the first part, was the being you. And that's when I realized that they're not investing in sauce and the product. It's about Levi Roots. So whatever I say and whatever direction I take from now onward with Reggae Reggae Sauce Levi Roots, it is down to me. It's not going to be down to them, because then they cannot be me in any way, form or whatever. You know, so for me, the destiny work was always there. And, you know, I took with it and I prayed a lot, and my mom prayed a lot as well, because she was a big inspiration behind. She actually took over from my grandma, you know, was that she was alive with me here because my grandma passed away while I was in school. So yeah, and just run with the inspiration with them.
Yeah, it's funny because I was gonna ask if your grandma lived to see you being successful with the sauce. Oh, that's sad.
No, she didn't. She passed away while I was in school, and you know, for me, it was one of the saddest things to deal with back then, because I only ever really got over her, you know, after that, to accept my mommy as my new comforter. You know, and my mom played a blinder back then because she knew what was happening with me, you know, and stuff. So she kind of took up that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, I understand. I understand. I understand. Sometimes we lose people and we realize, you know, the big part they had in our lives and we never see them again. That's painful, you know, but you appreciate her and you always give credit to her, you know, so thank you for doing that.
She is the, you know, the rising of me, you know, that wonderful.
Oh.
God bless her, you know, she just passed away recently, last year, you know.
Oh, your mom, really?
Yeah. So the memory is fresh, and
oh, sorry.
Yeah, she's a major part. Whenever I go too deep into it, especially now, you know.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah, that's fine. And yeah, so that's been brilliant. And you know, the brand has been shining ever since then, as you know. As I said, the key thing was always about the integrity of who you are, particularly if that's what you were trying to sell to the public. You know, that is what I've always tried to sell to the public. It's not about the sauce, but I've never tried to separate it. You know, I try to say to the public, buy into Levi Roots, buy into my dreams and my way forward when it comes to my products. And I think that's what the public has been doing ever since then.
And I think the Black community really took you to their hearts once you got through that Dragon's Den. Everyone was so happy for you. I remember that myself and a couple other people helped arrange your launch in Lambeth Town Hall. And I remember sending out the information about it, and everybody was, you know, the place was rammed, the place was full. Everybody wanted to come and celebrate with you, and that was fantastic. I remember sending out the news about it, and I think that day was the most, I sent it via email, that day was the most visitors I'd ever had on my website at that time. It was 16,500 people visited the website. Because I sent out an email about you, I thought, wow, that's really great. You know, people were really interested in your story. They wanted to know more. They wanted to support. And yeah, I must let you know the Black community was really behind you. And I believe they still are. And you have a number of products now. Tell me about the other products that you have.
Yeah, you know, as I said, we're lucky that the brand is the Levi Roots brand, so we are afforded to move away from sauce and to do other things. One of the newest things that we've been working on is a range of ice creams, which, you know, I think they already are in some spa stores, and so I'm hoping to sort of to extend the range a bit later on.
Oh, brilliant.
So that's been a fantastic step away from that. We have a range of soft drinks as well too. One in particular that does quite well is one called Caribbean Crush, which has done really well for the brand. Patties, pasties, ready meals, you know, it's been a great thing for me to express Caribbean food or to begin that process of taking it mainstream. And it's been great looking through the glass over the years and seeing how Caribbean food has moved on. And it's not just now about Levi Roots and Reggae Reggae. You know, restaurants are popping up all over the place now. When I look into Tesco's and Sainsbury's, you know, there's not just a range for, you know, European range. You know, there's also Caribbean range now in every supermarkets that you go into. So it's been a great, you know, journey and seeing, you know, the whole Caribbean food is open up. My series Caribbean Food Made Easy was one of the first, you know, real Caribbean that was filmed in Jamaica, which I was adamant for them to take me back to Jamaica to film this great thing. that helped to express Caribbean food to a lot of mainstream people, and I've always been very proud of that.
Yeah, and for those who haven't seen it, can it be seen? Is it on iPlayer or Netflix or any one of those?
Yeah. It's on iPlayer. You can just go to BBC and put in Caribbean food.
Fantastic, fantastic. You're probably due for another series soon, aren't you?
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. But yeah, I'm working on my film at the moment, which is another way for me.
A film?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, it'll be about, as I say, all I have to offer is my story. And
wow!
And it seems, you know, people choose to take a lot from it. So if I can tell it in every which way possible and try to inspire the next generation that, you know, it's not about where you are now, but it's just about how much you can dream and how much you can turn those dreams into reality.
Wow,
You
that
know,
sounds really exciting. When is the film coming out?
well, we start working this summer. Well, we've already started actually. We've got a great screenwriter, a black Jamaican parented screenwriter, one of the top ones in this country, who's doing the script right now. His name is Roy Williams, and I'm so proud and happy to have him involved because he's, you know, just right up. So yeah, so we're ready to go pretty much in the next few months.
So tell me, are you starring in it by any chance?
No, 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 not at all. It's you know, it's a cinematic movie, so it has to go through the process of having, you know, proper actors and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I would choose to play, you know, that bumbling fool in the whole school Caribbean restaurant who never have nothing on the and the menu and all these things.
Ooh.
Just to, yeah, but nothing really serious. I'd be lucky enough just to play a cameo role. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. So will that come out next year or the year after?
Yeah, next year, yeah, 2022, we're looking at, we're looking at filming, as Royce is working on the script right now. Without a script, you don't have a movie.
Yeah,
but,
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it will be, process will start this summer for this.
Okay. What about your music, by the way? How did you get into music initially?
Yeah, well, music was a massive inspiration for me when you know, in school, when I knew I struggled really, really bad and leaving without any kind of qualification. It was the inspiration of music that helped me to actually find my way. Otherwise, I would have been totally lost. I mean, because of my journey growing up then as a youth and landing in the UK here without that journey, like most people had gone through school, get a little bit of education, which helps you when you leave school and you move on. For me, it didn't really happen that way. So it was lucky that I met a gentleman called Festus, which is the selector for Sir Coxsone Sound. One day when I was going to sign on in Brixton at the Dole Centre, I met him down in Kelly's Road, and he invited me and a few others, friends of ours, to join up on Sir Coxsone Sound. And those days you started in the truck back. You had to be just in the back of a truck, and you drive to wherever the dance was, and you were called a box boy. So you would be one of the young guys that would take the boxes, the speaker boxes of the trucks, and help to wire up the sound system. And I started there, and Lloydie Coxon is the owner of the sound. He's a big producer at the time. Recorded my first song. I was a DJ on his sound system. So he took the chance of recording me, and I'll always be thankful to that man. The song was called Poor Man's Story, and it really did well amongst, you know, the roots and culture. It was myself and an artist called Fred Locks. And yeah, and it really did well, and that began my term in the music. I formed a band called Matic 16, and we toured and did all kind of stuff within the music. I got nominated for a MOBO Awards, which is my greatest in the music business. My album was called Free Your Mind at the time, 1998. I'll never forget that. I respect the MOBO so much because you know, it is a great institution, and being nominated was a fantastic feat.
So where can we hear that song, Poor Man's Story? Where can we hear it? Is it on Spotify or?
Yeah, it's online. It's online. It's on YouTube and that sort of stuff. But I'm putting out an album, as you talk about it, this year. Yeah, I'm working on the album called Dragon Slayer. Yeah, so it will be out later on this summer, this year. I keep saying
is Peter Jones spitting a verse?
No, not at all. No. One of the key things, you know, which I wanted to do was to keep it real serious when it comes to these guys. I didn't, because again, as a Rasta man, I never wanted to water down, you know, what it means, the integrity of a Rasta man, when you got into these boardrooms and stuff like that. And even things like that with the music, I'm always very serious when it comes to the music and the message that it gives as a Rasta man. And even when I'm in the boardroom, these people to represent as who I am, it's very difficult sometimes to keep that you know, that integrity. But for me, it's easy because I got to that point when I was 48. It's not like I was quite young, struggling, and you get into boardroom with these people where you feel like you have to change and become like them. By the time I got there, I was a seasoned man. So I knew how to keep that integrity intact. So for me, you know, I never joke out certain things when it comes to the integrity of who I am or the music. I keep that intact. So even sometimes Peter tried to sing the song, you know, reggae, reggae. That's a Peter. Don't sing reggae, reggae song. Because it's not about that. And nobody would ever feel me and him you know, I do all this type of thing. That's not what integrity is about, not at all.
So are you still working with him, with Peter?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're celebrating 15 years now. It's one of the longest relationships.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. It's one of the longest relationships in Dragon's Den. I don't think any company has lasted with a particular dragon this time and still been successful along the way. It's been absolutely wonderful. And for me, I gained one of the best friends I've ever had and closest, not just a business person, because you know it's been a great relationship along the way, and long may it continue. I've always said that the day I faced 5 dragons, I slayed 4 and walked away with 1 as a compatriot, and it's been a job. And yeah, long may it continue.
That's great. How about Brixton? Are you still in Brixton?
I'm talking to you right now from Vassal Road, from Southwest London in Brixton, where I've always lived, where the sauce was created. You know, and this is me. Again, you have to be real, as I said. I try to say to people all the time, don't buy the sauce. Buy into me, you know, buy into my dream of saying, you need to be grounded as people are. And the story is being, I mean, a lot of people think that me have big old somewhere in North London or move out and all these things. And it's never been about that. It's been about who you are, and I'm quite comfortable with my community, which is quite important.
That's good. That's good.
Because it wasn't a rejection in those days at all. I think it was more like an inspiration for them to say, don't sell us the sauce, find your market and go out and get it. And then once you do that and you do your dreams and you come back, no, we will accept you and give you everything. And that's what it's been. That's why you said earlier on that the community really checks for me. And I feel it. And that's why I never feel like I want to move away from.
Oh, that's great. That's great. But Brixton is changing, isn't it?
Brixton is changing. And you know, in some ways, we called for change when we were. I remember what I was saying. When you were growing up in the Brixton riots in the 70s, if you had a house and you wanted to give it to somebody, nobody would want to take it from you. If you want to give it away for free, it was that bad. Nobody wanted to come to Brixton in like 74, 73, those times. You know, it was really, really bad. And it was calling for change that causes the riots. The 2 riots that I've been to in Brixton. The main reasons why the community rise up is because they must say, look, somebody put a spotlight on we and see what's going on and make some changes around here. And sometimes when you call for change, when change comes, you can't stop it. It comes like a battering ram. You know, for good or bad, that's a different thing. It's a different question. But change did come. And it came in the form of this gentrification that we saw coming from the 80s and it comes the 90s and slowly push on things. Until recently, I was in Brixton and I saw you know, a down and out man laying in the ground and things. And I had to take a picture, you know, of him after giving him something and whatever, you know, because the irony was that back in my day, the down and out man lying out in the street was always black. This time, the picture of what I took in Brixton outside Marley's, the down and out man was white.
I hear you.
So it shows the 2 sides of gentrification, that in one hand, you know, it's changed completely from being a Caribbean hub, and the market was very Caribbean and everything like that. But also on the other hand as well, to the degradation and the this and the that, it's also changed as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has changed in every way. But I think the essence of, if you are a Brixtonian like me, you know, I like to think this is what drives me on. Is being able to be with the community. But me I get hold now on them things that my youngest son Christopher is 8 years old. And for me, as I said, I lost my mom last year. you know, and she only lived up the road
Yeah, yeah.
So for me, I think now that I can be able to inspire from without, you know,
Okay.
I don't think I need to be underground. So, you know, don't be surprised if I don't move out and have that house in Atlanta or wherever.
Or wherever.
However, that people been saying I've had all this time. So that's advice.
How about your children? How many children do you have?
Christopher is my eighth child. So yeah, he's the eighth bullet from the
Okay. So how are they
yeah.
doing? How have they been affected by their daddy's success?
Lord of mercy. Well, the best thing I can say, Don, is that my kids are old. You know, they're giving me grandkids now. You know what I'm saying? Christopher is the youngest. Christopher is 8, and the youngest from Christopher before that's nearly in his 40s.
No way.
Show you how it is.
Wow.
They all got their families and doing their whole thing and doing and whatever. My legacy is for my children, but my concern right now is for your Christopher. And for me, he's given me the energy and everything. I thought my life would kind of had no meaning after a long time of, you know, again, delving into Shakespeare, he talks about the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. There's a meaning of that. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, meaning that when you get the outrageous fortune, you know, people will always be firing arrows at you as well too, because that's the balance. That's what it's about. Like I said, everybody think they can jump to the top. So you will always get more slings and arrows once you've made yourself outrageous. And for me, you know, I was outrageous since 2006 for my launch at the Carnival, and Dragons then happened the following year, etc. So there's been lots of slings and arrows. And for me, it was always about protecting myself. But now I found that, you know, I have my young son now who it's all about protecting him. So, you know, the legacies can continue, but my concern is for this young one now is inspiring. Right?
Okay. So have you been able to help other entrepreneurs along the way in the same way that Dragon's Den has been able to help you in terms of your success? Are you giving back in that sense?
You do what you have to do. And like I said, people will know what kind of person you are and will know whether or not there is integrity there without you having to say, you know, what you've done throughout. I opened my restaurant and employ nearly 25 young people under 25. There you go. I've inspired and oh yes, there's one great person I like to answer. His name is Yona Knight Wisdom, young diver that's now just got into the Olympics. He dived for Jamaica, the only black diver that they.
Oh.
I've been sponsoring him now for nearly 12 years. So he's been on a fantastic journey. So I'll mention him because I'd like to help to pick him up. So everybody go and look him out. Dive for Jamaica. His name is Yona Knight Wisdom.
That's good. That's good. And I like the idea of the restaurant where you employed many youth. So well done there. Well done. Okay. So in terms of where you see yourself going over the next few years, I'm sure there are more ambitions that you have. Are you planning to get more food into, say, you know, top stores, top restaurants? Are you trying to make sure that, you know, more doors are open for Caribbean cuisine?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my thought now is to try to. I've always bigged up the few Caribbean islands that we're all familiar with in that kind of cuisine. You know, your Barbados, your Antigua, your Jamaica, and that sort of stuff. But I was lucky enough to visit Guadeloupe a few years ago when I played a small role in Death in Paradise. It was very small. I was with.
Oh, you're kidding? Really?
Yeah, it's a great show, and I used to love it so much that I got the place full.
Okay, you need to tell me which series and which episode that was.
Well, you just check it out. I think if you put in Levi Roots Death in Paradise.
Okay, well, I'm going to look it up and then we'll put a link We'll
I
put what
love,
it is
I
in the
love it.
description underneath.
Yeah, I love
Wow.
but yes, so I went to Guadeloupe to film
Oh,
and I love the food there. I love the mixture of the French and the
yes.
Creole together, the Caribbean. It's a three it's a three attack on flavors and everything. And it was really inspirational to me. He said, look, there are thousands of islands in the Caribbean, that don't get the exposure with their cuisine, like how I said those few ones that in the colonial islands, as this in the Jamaicas, the Antigua, your Barbados, I think we know a lot about that kind of cuisine. But to bring in some other of the other islands as well that are not so known, but their cuisine is absolutely amazing and wonderful. So that trip to Guadeloupe really inspired me. Said that maybe that's my next journey, is to try to express that sort of unique Caribbean that we don't always hear about.
I think that'd be great. I think that would make a great TV program if you went to Guadeloupe and explored, the chefs, the restaurant, the food there. I think that'd be great. Yeah, you need to pitch that to the BBC or whoever.
It's on its way. I think working on the film at the moment, I think that, God blessing it, it will open a lot of doors for these dreams that I have to go on the next stage to where I can actually help to bring Caribbean food and to express it.
Well, that's good because, you've achieved what you've done in terms of getting your sauce and other products into the supermarkets, and you're not stopping there, You're aiming to reach a wider market, and, with your inroads into film now and more music coming along, I think that the sky's the limit. Or maybe it's not the limit at all.
Well, as I said, the dream always continues. You wake up and you have a different dream every day. Hopefully that's the insight. For me, I and that's the entrepreneur as well too. You work on one thing and you move on, and that's how it is. And for me, it's always been about just trying to help others with my story, just trying to get that story to say that if Levi Roots can do it, then anyone can do it. But these are the processes that you have to go through to get to the end of that journey.
Well, I think you've done amazingly well. I remember when you did the Dragon's Den, and then you rang me and you said, "Dawn, I slayed the dragon." I was like, what? Really? You got your funding? He said, yes, I slayed the dragon. And I thought, yeah, go on, Levi. And then you said, don't tell anybody, because it hadn't been shown on TV yet, until eventually it was shown. And, the community is definitely behind you. And, it's always nice to see one of our own become successful in this way. So thank you for being that shining light and that example of what could be achieved. And I hope that others will be inspired to do the same. We've noticed a few other Black entrepreneurs getting funding on Dragon's Den recently. One that I looked at recently was Nyla's products, hair products, and it's just nice to see that coming through, and in fact, it's always nice when anybody gets funding. There are some really nice stories on Dragon's Den. So for people who don't watch it, I hope that they watch it. Here are my advertising for Dragon's Den at no cost. Do you watch it now, by the way? Do you watch it at all now? Because you said you didn't before.
No, again, my TV's stuck on the news and on sports.
I hear you, man. Same in this house. News all day long. So, yeah, I understand that. It's lovely talking to you, Levi.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you for what you've done and what you are doing, and stay in touch, okay?
Will do.
All right, then. Thank you.